Thank you, and I hope everyone can hear me. So, as it says on the label, my talk is about how we make our marketplace apps.
Can you speak up a little bit? Or, oh yeah, the mic.
Maybe someone
needs
this. Yeah.
So the problem with the voice from Noah is he stole the microphone. Sorry about that.
Now I'm all mic'd up. I have one here as well, but let's go with the handheld one. All right. So for those who are Insane Clown Posse fans, you might know how they are fascinated by magnets. If you don't, then look it up. But the riddle here, water, fire, air, and dirt, multi-brand build targets. How do they work? Let's see. This is me. My name is Mørk. I live and work in Oslo, Norway. I just got a brand new email address, baldermørk@vent.com. You can also reach me at finn.no or even schibsted.com. I am currently the area tech lead for apps in Vent. And that is a staff engineer role. It's actually the same that Alan used to have before he became principal engineer, but I've done some other things as well. I've been an Android developer, I've been a tech lead, and I worked for almost 5 years as an engineering manager. I've been in the mobile app development business for 21 years now, wow, and counting. So today we're going to look at what we had to do 2 years ago when we were told that now we are consolidating, we're making one app. And I'll dive a little bit into the details, but not too much, and that is because, as I said, I'm an Android developer. I'm not going to bore you with the details of our Android build setup. I know a little bit about how we do iOS, but let's see where we go. So, here's the challenge. As we know, Vend is the parent company of these marketplaces. We decided to consolidate the market verticals, and you've all heard what the verticals are. Those are the separate marketplaces like jobs and real estate, etc. We wanted to have a common technical platform, because we don't want to reinvent everything in 4 different countries. However, when we started out, each company had their own native apps, and they had practically no shared code. And then we decided, okay, let's build a shared platform. And that's what we're doing. And it says Aurora, that's the name of our platform. That's not interesting to all of you, but that's more than just the apps. That's also all the back-end services and the website and all of the things that run in the background. And the point of doing this is that we can really deep dive into making great solutions once and then deploy them in multiple countries. We also free up these verticals to tailor their stuff on top of this common platform. And instead of starting from scratch, we decided to start with the one that we thought had the most features, and that was the Finn.no platform, because that one has all of these 4 verticals. It has a re-commerce site, it has jobs, it has motor, cars, etc., and real estate. This is what these 3 apps look like when we started. And as you can see, it's quite similar, right? It has a search field, it has some recommendations and some results and so on, but it's not quite the same, and it's obviously not running the same code. And right now it looks more like this. Should be fairly similar, I think. If you have an eye for it, you will notice that there are actually different fonts on all of this. And they use different colors, etc., but it's practically the same app. So we started out with the Finn app, and it was not we didn't try to structure it for being like a white label app or anything that we could rebrand. We did not try to structure it for having a bunch of separate teams working in separate verticals at the same time, because that's not how we were working in Finn. But the first thing we did was we split it up into separate parts so that we can put them together in the configuration we needed in the various markets. We store our code in a monorepo, but as I said, it is split into modules. So because as you saw in Alan's presentation, we now have these vertical units, and within those we have a bunch of teams. So in order to not everyone working on the same source file at the same time, we have modules that are assigned to teams, mostly. Each of these modules are put into a package. So you might recognize the verticals here. You have jobs, mobility, you have real estate, e-commerce, and the bottom one, app modules, that's sort of the shared stuff, which is this big bar at the bottom where quite a few developers work. The granularity can differ a bit. You can have a module that is just like utility functions, or it can be a huge feature consisting of multiple screens. Might depend a bit, but the point is that we split this up, and we can also assign one team as the owner of each module. Makes it easier to do code review, etc. All of these modules are put together and configured in the main app module. We have a continuous integration running, so for every PR and for every merge to the master branch, we build all the 4 apps. When we deploy, the apps have the same build number and the same version code, so that is kept in sync, and they also follow the same release schedule. They also have pretty much the same capabilities. At least each module does exactly the same in each app that it's a part of. We also have weekly internal builds that are made automatically. The releases are not automatically made because we might want to have some stabilization phase and fix some bugs, etc. But the internal builds, they go straight out to internal users. That's whatever is in the main branch when we build, that's what our internal users will get. We release every week. Again, by the date or clock, not by when a certain feature is done. So instead of having like feature drops every time we have completed some milestone, we just release every time. So we try to keep the diff as small as possible. So far, we believe that weekly is like the sweet spot between not having too big changes and not having like 0 increase in functionality. My number is out of date. I now know that we have about 52, but honestly the number of developers could change from month to month. It is a large company, people come and people go, but roughly 50 to 60 developers are contributing to the apps from a number of different teams. So how do we make these apps? Well, there are a number of different techniques we use to make separate apps with separate functionality out of the same code base. And one is just configuring the build targets. So some things obviously go into this. Translations and strings and colors, we already saw the fonts. Could have different images for like empty state, screens, error states, that sort of thing. And also API keys, client IDs, that sort of thing. Also the URLs, because the apps connect to separate environments for each brand. We also have which modules are actually configured and in use. So this is an example of the Finn app on the left, which has, this is just conceptual, so don't be too concerned about the number of boxes here. But the point is, Finn has more things turned on than the Tori app, but it's still the things that are the same in both are identical code running. So this is like a very rough overview of how things are made. We have this shared code base, put it through this pipeline, applies a design system. We have a brandable design system that uses color tokens and icon tokens, etc. So you don't say put the Finn logo here, but we say put the brand logo here, and that will resolve into one of these as we build. And this goes into a pipeline that can then spit out these 3 branded apps at regular intervals with, as you see, different feature set for each brand. We also sometimes do code switching based on the brand name. So like if brand equals blah blah, do this, try to avoid it. It's usually not a very good idea. It's also very, or it can be bug prone. Depends on. If you, in the start when we only had 2 apps, it was very tempting to say, like the first 2 we rolled out, we obviously already had Finn, then we went out with Tori in Finland. It was very tempting to say, if Tori do this, else do that. Then you have a problem when you come with a 3rd brand. So as I say, switch statements instead of if statements, for example. And we try to encourage thinking of the capabilities that are enabled. So instead of saying if this brand do that, then say if this feature is there, do that. And also an important thing, and this is obvious to us here as app developers, but it's not as obvious to web developers, that is that the teams don't really deploy things as you would with a web page. With a web page, you deploy it and then you can roll back if it doesn't work, etc. Here, it all goes into a release. That release goes to the App Store, and then it goes to the user's device. But once we have all this tested and merged and in the source tree, then there is very little cost that goes into rolling it out to a new brand. Because we don't have to set up a new deployment. We just say that, okay, now we can decide to turn on this feature in this new brand. Need some backend stuff, etc., but the app code is already there and we know it works because it's already running in another country. So going from Finn and Tori app into having 3 brands, like with the DBA app, took us a day and a half to have the first version up and running. It was not perfect, obviously, but we had 3 targets and we had connecting to separate environments. Feature toggles is also something that we use a lot. We use a system that is called Unleash, and if you're interested in it, you can go to getunleash.io and check it out. It is a product that is built by ex-Finn employees. It started as an internal project because we saw the use for turning things on and off easily, and at the time, none of the available systems were deemed good enough for us, or it's just that someone didn't want to use something that they hadn't invented themselves. I don't know. But it's good, it serves us well, and it is quite powerful and flexible. We used to use it for A/B testing as well. We don't do that now. Right now it's just a pure feature toggling system. We're using amplitude experiments now for A/B testing, but there are a bunch of systems out there. You can pick any, Firebase, etc., etc. But the way this works for us is quite flexible. In the code, you will just add a switch, check if this feature is enabled, and you can start doing it locally, purely in the app with a toggle that you can turn on and off in the debug menu, and then you can expand it with an online version of it that will be checked on startup. This also lets us kill features after we have released them, and it means that we don't need to time a rollout of a feature with an actual release. We can make a feature a month in advance and get some user acquisition out there, then we can turn it on from the backend. We can also turn on a feature only for users with a certain user ID, which means we can test our own stuff in production. That's nice. Another thing that controls how the apps behave and look is just backend data. We use the same services in the app as we do on the web. It's just pure JSON payloads and REST calls. All of the layout, obviously, all of the visual things, all the user interaction is in the app, but the data we get from the backend. We might use a lot of requests to build up a single page, as our web services do as well, and then compose that into, for example, the item page, which shows you an object that is for sale. What this means is that if we configured one of these apps to connect to the cluster of one of the other brands, you would basically get the Finn item inventory in the Tori app or in the DBA app, etc. Because, as I said, the apps are basically the same. For this to work, you also probably know this, you need to have stable APIs. If you break and change an API, then you break the app for those that have an older version of it. Web developers have the luxury of deploying their front end and their back end at the same time and rolling them back at the same time. We can't do that. Once it's out, it's out. We try to make the apps handle missing services gracefully. So that means that if it's not available, we just hide that section or feature or whatever. So this is how things look in an ideal situation. you have these various item pages connecting to the backend. And then if they are not available, well, then you simply don't have that feature available either. This means we can also replace a part. So that's what I try to illustrate here. I don't know if that is obvious, but the red thing there is just a totally different service that, as long as it fulfills the API contract, then you can have a drop-in replacement. And we've done that a few times, and we've made it slightly easier to do those sort of things by having an API gateway that we put the endpoints between or behind. So we can replace them and put in some other piece of software that just produces the same result, and the app won't mind. Then some of the differentiation is simply by what data is available from these endpoints. So one example is this market grid that we have on top of the front page of our apps. The service is the same, the contract is the same, but the content is obviously different from brand to brand. So here we have some mobility markets, we have various e-commerce markets, etc. Front page search is also one place where we can provide lots of entry points to various parts of the app. It can point to our favorites, it could point to a search, it could point to a conversation we have, and we can avoid presenting those links if we don't want to expose that feature. And the same with when creating new ads. We send a list of ad types and a list of markets that are available, which means we could also expand that as long as it's supported in the app. So, trying to wrap up, and I will start by maybe one of the most important takeaways, as I was touching on previously. Once we release something, it's out there. We can't roll it back. We can patch it, but we can't force the user to have some other version, some older version or a newer version installed. Which means that we have to focus a lot on building stable apps that handle errors gracefully. And there's a quote here from a Facebook engineer which expresses the feeling that you have, and this is probably even more powerful in the older days when you might have less frequent releases. When you have a big new release with a lot of fancy stuff in it, you shoot it out there, you can't get it back. So it better be robust enough to handle any future changes to your setup. And this is where we are today. We have 3 apps so far that are all built and deployed in lockstep. We have teams that can work independently from each other on their own separate little part of the app. We have an automatic release train that seems to work very, very well. I'm sure that some of you can relate to product managers trying to make sure that they get their stuff in before the next big release. Well, if you can say to them that, no, you didn't make the deadline, but chill out, you can make it the next week. That can sometimes at least calm them down a bit. It's fairly easy to expand with new brands. So as we move more and more of our marketplaces onto this platform, it's not that big of a job for the app team. The features are there, the capabilities are there. We just need the icons and the URLs and the fonts, etc. Using these techniques that I talked about, configuring the build, using feature toggling, changing the backend services, we can have flexibility in what features are available where. And it is all built on a shared platform that lets the vertical teams focus on their products. And in the core, we can focus on giving them the stability and tools and modules that will accelerate their work. And with that, I am done. Any questions from... Yes, there are. I think, we can start here, maybe?
I can run around with the mic. Okay, here we go.
No, I don't have a question. I just want to try the microphone and sound like a rock star. No, I do have a question. I really like this idea about Aurora. How much time and or money do you think will be saved by this?
So the question is how much time and or money we save by building on a shared platform. To tell the truth, I can't say. But what I can say is that if you look at the drawing that Alan shared earlier, we had about 20 developers in the bottom, and then we had these vertical teams that build on top. And I am fairly certain that letting all these vertical teams not have to worry about the bottom layer is causing a saving. And if it isn't saving us money, then it is letting them build more advanced and more feature-rich experiences on top of it. So if we make the same thing with less resources, or if we make even better things without increasing, it's still a saving, but I cannot put a figure on it. Sorry.
What is the reason for sticking with REST and JSON only? Because I think all your platforms has like chats, and it may be not the most efficient solution for that.
Yep.
Sorry.
It is partly because it's simple and it works, and partly because we use the exact same APIs as the web does. But we do have, for example, some features that are built with GraphQL, so there is no rule that blocks any team from doing it. But it is everyone knows how to build a REST service, everyone knows how to consume it, and it's very, very straightforward. But there's nothing stopping people from using other techniques. And like for our messaging service, we use WebSockets, and we have others as well, but like 98% of what's going on is REST traffic in JSON.
Hello, thanks for a nice presentation. As an engineer in the Shipstead team now, we are responsible for shipping shared applications for newspapers. And we also, when I joined Shipstead, we had the similar goals to ship one code for all publishers. And the major challenge we faced eventually is the coding share, or like implementation sharing between web, Android, and iOS. And our response was to create something like a layout engine, sort of the remote layout. And the response was like, internally it's called Flex. And what's your envision regarding sharing? Do you use some Kotlin native, or I don't know, maybe you've got some plans we can leverage and you can share these ideas about sharing, not implementation, but things which could be reused both in these three areas, which are quite common about sharing and layout, but no silver bullet exists, so everybody is reinventing the wheel. Thanks.
So the question is about sharing layout details and sharing implementation across web and the app platforms. The short answer is that we don't do it much. We have experimented with earlier having server-side layout systems for the apps, and like anything in technology, it's a pendulum that swings back and forth. We were on quite extreme side of everything being configurable for both app platforms with layout and content, but sooner or later you end up with a poor re-implementation of HTML, and then you might as well just go for website, right? And that's maybe where we are today, where we have pure native implementations for both platforms, but we are also experimenting with using web views for some simpler pages. I don't think it's the solution for this heavily interactive solutions, but when you have lots of static content like here is info about the benefits of buying a car from a registered dealer or stuff like that, that is not very exciting stuff to build. Then we can have a web page using the design system. We are fairly certain it will look the same on all three platforms, Android, iOS, and web. And hopefully you shouldn't be able to tell it from a native built page. But we are not yet doing anything multi-platform. We have talked about maybe trying some Kotlin multi-platform but that's for layers further down from the UI. So maybe some data deserialization and things like that. But we're not doing anything fancy with the visual. No.
Okay, thank you. We're running about 10 minutes late, so just in the interest of keeping things moving along, we're going to be here all evening, so
Yeah.
you can ask as many questions as you like.
Please.
Give him a hand. Thank you.